Hello everyone, my name is Raven Shadowhawk and you're listening to Smut with Brains, my chance to chat with you about all the things that interest me as an author of erotic fiction. Please be aware this podcast will often contain sexual content, some of it explicit, and that I occasionally swear. Okay, I swear a lot, what can you do? But if you're happy with that and not already running for cover, slip into your most comfy clothes, join me between the sheets and settle in for a super smexxy ride. Hello, my smexxy fuckers! How are you today? I'm Raven Shadowhawk, your host for the duration of this episode 19 of Smut with Brains. I have a cough. Yes, it's been an incredible week for me, as you may have guessed from my hints last week. I've had all the fun and now I'm back. And I'm here to tell you all about it. Mwah. It is Monday, the 8th of May, as I record this, and I feel like I should start by saying something. Yeah, I'll tell you. Today, May the 8th, is DSB's birthday. Yeah, birthdays, shenanigans, things, presents, cards. Getting older, ew. But, you know, it doesn't matter. Aging is something we all have to do. Maturing is something that we should do. You know, being a grown-up, I don't know what I'm saying. There is a very big difference between being an adult and being a grown-up. And I'm not quite sure which of the two DSB is. We'll find out somewhere along the way. Anyway, so, yeah, happy birthday to her. Yay! My birthday is much later. I'll tell you about that when the time comes. I have so much to tell you about today. I'm so excited. Last week I told you about Hero Fest and that I'd be off in the woods being yet another person because, you know, having 3 people in my head is not enough. Apparently there's another 2 at this LARP, but I only played 1 this weekend, which involved bopping in the car with my buddy Kylie and driving across to Wales. God, you freak. For Hero Fest event number something or other in the Mookie Mountains. I think it's probably Moki Mountains because it's 1 O as opposed to 2. I really should have asked about that at the event. Anyway, much fun was had. I'm not going to sit here and tell you about every little thing because I'd be here for the rest of my life, basically. There is so much to tell you if I was going to do that. Maybe I'll do a separate podcast about it another point. Oh! I've got an idea! Okay, listen, guys, listen. This might not sound like a big deal, but when I got back yesterday and I was going through YouTube, I realised that my subscribers on YouTube has hit its first teeny weeny milestone. 5. Now, it doesn't sound like much, and I suppose it isn't a lot when you think about some of the other YouTubers out there, but then think about how small I am and how few people know who the hell I am. 5 is awesome, and I'm so pleased. So I'm actually going to be doing a special kind of celebratory video to celebrate the milestone, and I might talk about a LARP in it. It won't be just audio. There will be an audio lift, but it will actually be video. You will be able to see my face. Decide for yourself whether or not that's something you want. But yeah, I think I'll chat about Hero Fest and a bunch of other stuff in that video. It should be out at some point this week. This is me making promises now, but I'll be able to keep them. So keep an eye on the YouTube channel for that. However, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the event. So, buckle in, guys. I don't even know where to begin because it's just going to make us sound like a bunch of weirdos. And I suppose we are, but when we're all together, it doesn't feel that way. Okay. my faction, as in the clump of people that I tend to hang around with while I'm at this LARP, they're called the Summer Stars. They, once upon a time, they were primarily elves, you know, pointy ears, Lord of the Rings style. But now we're branching out a bit to include all manner of fae. My secondary character, Minnie, that I talked about last week, she is a fire sprite, but she still counts as fae, so she is a Summer Star. My primary character, who I retired for a little bit in favour of Minnie, made a return this weekend. Her name is Treya Fenwin. She is a high elf. Well, I say high elf. She's a grumpy sod. She never used to be, but, you know, her lover got killed and her dad tried to sell her off to another faction for advantageous trade agreements, and then he became a zombie and a lich and a wraith and killed lots of people. Anyway. Anyway, that's my character. So bear in mind you have people dressed up in leathers and greens and floaty things and the occasional corset, and there are swords around, there are bows around. We had a campfire this event, so we actually spent quite a bit of time around this campfire. But there's this weird kind of in-joke which has travelled from last year into this year. You know how I get about the word segment? Segment. The entire faction, well, portions of the faction seem to have real issues with the word moist. Now, I really like the word moist. It's moist and so descriptive, but it's become something of a calling card for the Summer Stars. Just a way for us to figure out where we are, and it kind of happened by accident. Somebody will say moist, and then the other words that people seem to have problems with were crunchy and gusset and oozing. That's a new one. It sounds really weird when I'm trying to explain it. I don't think I'm doing a very good job. But basically, saying any of these words in our camp will pretty much result in a fit of giggles. And you're talking about a bunch of adults here. You know, people who have passed the 18 plus barrier. Giggling like children over dirty words. Which aren't dirty, by the way. There's nothing dirty about the word moist. I'm not thinking of it as I say it now. Oh my god, so yeah, there was that. I'm going to tell you about one particular encounter we had, which had pretty much every single one of us in stitches. It knocked us the hell out. It was so funny. We had a visitor to the camp, a flesh golem, and we were all sitting around the campfire having a gab, and this golem comes up the path. I'm gesturing now as if you can see me. Comes up the path into the camp and starts walking around the circle around the fire. So between us and the circle around the inside. We were about to freak out because flesh golem, bad. But it didn't seem to be hostile. So we sat there and let it work its way around the circle until we noticed it had a scroll tucked into its boot. One of our number reached for it. That went badly. There were angry grunty sounds, so she stopped. Another reached for it. Angry grunty sounds, so she stopped. I reached for it. No angry grunty sounds, but a hand extending towards my face, which froze me in my tracks. Guys? And then this hand sneaks in from the back of the circle and snatches this scroll. Kestrin, you legend, snatches this scroll and pegs it. She runs out the camp and the golem goes after her. Proper running. I've never seen her or him run that way. And I didn't even see it happen. It was really, really slick. But somehow, somewhere in the middle of that, the scroll got traded around and the golem ended up chasing the wrong person into the forest, while the scroll was back in camp being very hastily copied. So I'm running. And if you've seen me, if you haven't seen me, there's pictures of me on the website, but if you've seen me, you know I have boobs. Running is an issue. Yes, I do run, but that's kind of long distance, gentle jogging stuff, not a flat on sprint across frickin' undergrowth and tree roots and sand and you know, shrubbery. So that hurt, but we catch up to them and we're slowly coming back trying to stall this golem so we can finish copying the scroll. And it ends up with him catching on to the fact that we've got it in the camp and chasing us down and wrestling with us to get a hold of this scroll, and eventually getting hold of it, all crumpled up and mangled and torn. The seal is gone, and he's looking at it and it's like, oh no, my message, this is bad. And then he turns around very slowly and puts it in my hands and then walks off. Now, this might be kind of one of those you had to be there moments, but it was ridiculous. We worked so hard to, 1, get this scroll away from him, to 2, keep it away from him so we could copy it, and all he actually wanted to do was give it to the leader of the faction, which was me. Stuff like that happens all the time. In fact, this is an interesting thing about LARP, okay? And I'm thinking about this with the scripts I've been writing. I've got something else to tell you guys later on. People in certain situations act a certain way. They think a certain way, right? But as soon as you put somebody in a situation that isn't quite their usual one, or where the expectations of them and around them are slightly different, aka a roleplay situation, people act really strangely. Think about it this way, right? You're sitting in the pub and someone comes up to you with a letter, right? You would not immediately try and snatch this letter out of their hand, or, make funny faces at them, or grab it and make a run for the loos, would you? You just wouldn't do that. That's not the way society works. You would be like, all right, mate, what's that for? Or is that for us? Or can I help you? Or something like that. No. Not role players. And I've noted this in LARP and when I ran a D&D campaign a couple of years ago. People make daft decisions when they're role playing. It's really, really weird. You just, all semblance of societal norms just disappear, and you become this crazy kind of monster punching, sword swinging, bow twanging lunatic who doesn't know how to have a conversation to get what they want. And I think that's the funniest part about it, because the reason I played Treya this event was because I understood that the stars would need a diplomat, because quite a few of our usual talky people did not come and could not come. So I thought, okay, I'll play this character again because she's actually good at speaking to people in a diplomatic manner. Did I do that this weekend? Did I shit? I caused so much trouble this weekend. Bad girl. And you know what? It was so much fun. It was worth it. And then, of course, putting aside in-character fun stuff, at the end of the event, I made my way round to one of my favourite factions, Beyond My Own. There are quite a few I like, but these guys are awesome. They have cool fizz reps. Anyway, Shadows Fall Keepers, or the Keepers, or the Pirates, as they're often known, have a ship, or a portion of a ship, at the back of the camp. I hadn't actually managed to make it there the entire weekend, which is weird for me. I normally spend a reasonable amount of time there, particularly as Treya, because she actually talks to people there, because stuff needs to be organised. As Minnie, she doesn't do much organisation and talking and mature stuff. She just kind of floats around and sets things on fire. And so it was really weird, actually, that I hadn't been to the Keeper's ship. So I decided to go on the Saturday night at the end, when nobody was really in character anymore and people were winding down and just getting drunk, which is why I went there. I got ratted. And you guys know I'm doing Slimming World, right? So it's changed the way I eat significantly. I didn't realise how much of a profound effect that would have on my tolerance to alcohol. 4 shots. Just 4. Which is so much gentler than the previous 2 kilo haulings I've had, which involved 7 or 6 shots. 4, and I was a mess. I was a mess. I was forgetting people's names. I was falling on my butt, even though I was sitting on the chair. I was talking nonsense, more than I do on this podcast. And I just, I don't know. I have low tolerance for drunk people, especially when they do silly things, but for some reason, at that event, in that place, with that cluster of people, getting drunk is just fun. So, what did I do this weekend? I ran about the woods for a bit, swung a sword around, hit people, made trouble, and then got pissed. Woo! I also discovered that I have a couple of listeners among the Hero Fresh crowd, which I did not expect. So, hi guys! Thank you for listening. I hope you've all got home safely and that you're not too broken. I am fucked, can I just say. I hurt my foot, the same foot I had the physio for, by the way, last year. On Friday, before time in, I fell over in front of the tavern and hurt myself. And then I got stung by stinging nettles when I was peeing in a bush. And then I clipped my other ankle with my case when I was trying to carry it around. So both my feet are knackered, my leg is knackered, and I have bruises on my thighs, and I don't quite know where they came from. I'm also covered in little scratches and marks from pretty much pitching tents and gathering firewood and rolling around in the dirt. Woohoo! So, it's about normal, actually. This little catalogue of injuries isn't unusual. I had a good time. What can I say? Related to LARP, and I'm going to tell you about this now, there's an idea that's been floating around in the household for quite some time. Originally pitched by the Funkmaster. He's good with stuff like that. He wants me to write something called LARP. My original thought about that was, that's not a very original title, sort it out, mate, the creative person. But he took me through his idea and it was really, really interesting. We were talking about this last year, so it's not a new idea, but I'm actually going to do something about it this year. The interesting thing about these LARP events is, normally, I generally don't see those people outside of those events. Okay? So there's actually a very big social aspect to going there and seeing these people and catching up, seeing what they're doing, because Facebook doesn't necessarily fill all those boxes. It doesn't tick all the boxes. It doesn't compare to seeing someone, giving them a hug, looking in their eyes and telling them how you've been getting on, right? So that would be one thread of this story that the Funkmaster's talking about. The other thread, and the other interesting part is, there is always a story happening at the LARP, in character. And it's a story that, by necessity, gets chopped up over the course of the year. There are 3 Hero Fest events over the course of the year. So, you've got 1 May, 1 July, 1 September. And the story continues. So things that happen in the previous event affect the upcoming event. And sometimes that has a bearing on the next event after that. And certainly things that have happened in past events pop up again and again and again in current events. Thank you, Simon. I love your plot and I love you. Mwah, mwah, miss you. Anyway, so that would be another thread of this LARP story that the Funkmaster's talking about. And what he is describing to me is a story in 2 parts. So you have the story of what's happening in character, I see, in the LARP. And you have the story of the relationships outside of what's happening, I see, out of character. So that's OC, right? And what he's describing is a story that has these 2 parallel threads that weave in and out that touches on how relationships and events OC can affect events happening IC and vice versa, and give you a story. And it's an idea I really, really love. It's just about meta enough that it's really interesting, but it's also got enough complexity in it that I think it would be really, really fun to do. I've no idea how I'd make it work logistically, in terms of deciding how the story will be told. 3rd person, first, present, past. Those kind of little niggly things will be kind of tricky to work out, and I'd have to do that when I'm outlining it. But the idea of telling 2 stories within 1 story, one of those stories being a high fantasy style romp adventure story with swords and magic and bad guys and good guys and, magical items, but it can actually run alongside a real life story about people who have jobs in the real world and have romantic relationships and friendships and fallings out and comings together. And, I love the idea that I could do both of those things in 1 story. The worst part about it is, I love the idea, but it's probably not something that I could do. I think it would actually be more a story for Iliandra. Unless, I don't know, LARPers are kinky people. Sometimes just in their behaviour, sometimes in their actual leanings. I don't know. I think it would distract from whatever story I try and tell if I try and sex it up too much. So I think, as much as I like this idea, I'd probably hand it off to Ileandra to do. Let her look after it, and then if she needed to refer to me for smexy bits, then I'd be happy to help her out. Oh my god, I've talked so much and I haven't even hit the usual podcast bits yet. Okay, do you know what? That's enough of me nattering. Let's look at what's been going on. Mark it on the calendar. Tick it off the list. Work complete. Yeah, that's sweet. Here's my to-do list. You get the gist. Yeah, I knew last week that it would be difficult to get stuff done. All I wanted to do this week was get 2 more sections of breaking news done before I went away. Have I done them? Have I shit? I realised right after recording last week's podcast that I didn't have any kit. Slimming World is awesome, but my existing kit for Treya, her costume, her dress, did not fit. I tried it on and I realised when I had it on my body that I didn't undo the zip, which used to be impossible. And then I realised that when I did the lacings on the side, like the corset style lacings on the side, it was still too big and the sides were all the way closed. And it was actually too long as well. I don't think I've shrunk in height, but I do think that my arse and boobs have deflated enough that actually there's more fall to the fabric now. So that sounds really odd, but I know what I'm talking about. So it would have meant that the dress was dragging all over the floor more than usual, so I could not wear it. So I had to make myself something new. I made myself a very pretty, very, very, very pretty skirt and a very, very pretty top half thing too. And then all I had to do was put the accessories on top of it. But basically, I was doing that last week instead of writing anything. Oops. Whatever, it needed to be done, and it was worth it. I've wrecked the zip on the skirt. Unfortunately, I caught it probably on some brambles or something as I was scrambling through the undergrowth, so that got fucked. But whatever, it doesn't matter. This week is mostly kind of sort of back to normal. Obviously there's birthday shenanigans, probably on Saturday actually. Party! I'm still high. Not like drugs high, but like cheerfulness high. And it's coming across in the recording. I'm so sorry, people. If you wanted normal Raven this week, I can't provide that. I just can't. Sorry. Not sorry. So yeah, unfortunately, no. Did not happen. Gather round, boys and girls. Raven's here and she's going to tell you a story. A sexy story. No, a smexy story. Breaking news. Part 1 of the Learning the Ropes series by Raven Shadowhawk. Chapter 5. Hadn't realised it was so dark out. The streets were almost empty, but for the occasional cab in the opposite direction. The heavy cloud cover made the darkness deeper than it should have been for 9 in the evening. Still, I found myself grateful for the lift. Day sat up front, chattering non-stop. She beat her hands on the dashboard and gestured to and fro, occasionally causing Nathan to duck her flailing fingers. He drove the same way he did everything else. Slowly, carefully, thoughtfully. I concentrated on getting through the next few minutes. The skirt of my dress lay light on my thighs, slipping on the smoothness of my freshly shaved skin. I could feel every fibre, every inch of it on my body. Couldn't remember the last time I was so tuned in. Even the back of my neck prickled with the anticipation, a cool tickle that rushed up and down my spine like teasing fingers. Joshua wanted me back. He wanted to see me. I tightened my grip on the handbag clutched on my lap. "Are you even listening to me, girl?" "What?" I looked up. Day had swiveled in her seat, straining the seatbelt to look back at me. "You didn't hear a word of that, did you?" "Sorry, I..." "Quit daydreaming and pay attention. We're going to stay out here while you go inside. Right, Nate?" Silence, then a soft, muttered, "Yeah, that's fine." Right, so we'll drop you off outside the flat and you head inside. If you really mean to stay and talk to the creep, guy, then we'll just go. But we aren't going anywhere until we know you're okay. I chuckled. What do you think he's going to do to me? Of course I'll be okay. Day snorted and flipped her hair over her shoulder. Whatever. Just promise you'll text or call me. If you don't, I'll come charging up there to sort this guy out. The thought filled me with horror. I'll text you, don't worry. Promise. But honestly, you don't need to stay. I'll be fine. Yeah, we'll see. Dim street lights. One of them broken on the left side of the road. Couldn't believe the council still hadn't sorted it out. Then again, they hadn't fixed the potholes either. A chill rushed up the back of my legs, reminding me that I should be heading inside. If you're going in, get on with it. Ring the damn bell. Across the street, leaning out the passenger window, Day gestured at me. Her features were lost in shadow, but her tone said more than enough. Deep breath. Reach for the bell. Halfway to the button, I stopped. Wouldn't it be nice to surprise him properly? Below the panel of 8 apartment numbers was another marked post. Several weeks ago, I spotted our postman use it to enter the building. His code was simple enough that I still remembered it. 65231. Shona! It's cold, girl. Are you doing this or not? I pressed each of the numbers in turn. The apartment door clicked, then swung open in my grip. Why was my stomach so knotted up and painful? He contacted me. If that wasn't a sign he wanted to fix things between us, then what was? Another deep breath. Inside. No lift in this apartment block. It was a traditional building with ornate spiral stairs and posh stonework replaced by similar if slightly tackier plaster. The wooden beam of the banister glided smooth beneath my fingers, a sensory replay from mere weeks ago. I pressed my back to the wall, eyes closed. Joshua liked to stop on that curve of the stairs. He'd run his fingers through my hair and nibble at my earlobe, whispering all the deviant things he longed to do to me as soon as we reached our home. My phone buzzed in my handbag. What, Day? Well, are you talking? Is he still a git? I gritted my teeth. No, he's fine. We are fine. He's even making me a cup of tea. We're going to talk and I'm going to stay here tonight. Seriously? Her voice became so shrill I could barely hear it. But I've got this, okay? Just go home. Silence. Muted whispers. I have a bad feeling, Shona. Are you sure? My fingers tightened on the phone. I'm not stupid. Stop mothering me and go home. Let me fix my life so I can get off your sofa. It's your sofa, Shona. Are you done? Yes, sure, I'm done. See you tomorrow for lunch? You bet. Okay. And yet she loitered. Did she know? Could she tell I was barely halfway up the stairs? I love you, Shona. Take care of yourself. She was gone before I could form the apology I knew she deserved. Damn. Later. I could do it later. In that moment, I just needed to get on with what I came for. My steps echoed as I climbed the stairs. On the first floor, apartments 2 and 3 stood out on the left, with gleaming gold numbers on plain wooden doors. Up the next flight, and there were 4, 5, and 6. A little potted plant still stood outside number 5, a tiny thing with spiky leaves and a pot coated in glittering gold paint. One more flight. Apartments 7 and 8. I stopped in front of 7 and swallowed a rush of bile. My hand shook as I reached for the wood. The gut-rumbling bass of some tasteless dubstep track thudded through it. Just like Joshua. He loved music like that. 3 minutes passed before a suitable gap turned up. I knocked hard, 3 stiff taps that bruised my knuckles. The music began again, then cut off. Footsteps. I fluffed my hair and straightened the skirt, adjusted the cups of my bra, pulled my panties from the crack of my rear. The door opened. I know, Mrs. Flickerman, I know. I'll turn it down. Shona? My heart stopped, I'm sure of it. I know my breathing did, stuck at the back of my throat beneath a lump of excitement so thick I almost choked on it. In that moment, I thanked Day and her insistence on shaving. If Joshua was going to look like that, then I needed to look as good as possible. Hi. What? He scrubbed a hand through his hair. What are you doing here? I wanted to see you. I couldn't wait for tomorrow. My palms prickled. So did the back of my neck. I thought... I hoped we could talk. Now? Joshua looked over his shoulder, back into the apartment. Piles of clothes lay at the end of the hallway. A pair of shoes, a sock. I see you still haven't figured out where the wash basket is. He grinned, a dazzling flash of teeth that weakened my knees. Okay, baby doll, you got me. I'm a slob. You're my slob. His eyebrow twitched. I sure am. Yeah, we can talk. He raised a hand to halt my progress into the apartment. But can I clean up a bit first? Just 2 minutes, promise. My own lips formed a smile. You don't have to worry about impressing me. I don't want you to see what a mess I've become without you. 2 minutes. He slipped back through the door and eased it shut. I chuckled, mentally cataloguing everything to report back today. I knew this was the right thing to do. An ache crawled up the back of my calf. I toed off the sandals to let my feet settle more naturally. When the door opened again, my feet were numb and my teeth chattering, but it didn't stop me hopping forward to throw myself into Joshua's outspread arms. He tugged me up against him, hands gripping my waist. As he swung me round, his head leaned forward. I tilted my head for him, let him claim my lips in a skin-searing kiss. Wow. My back thudded off the wall, hip jarring as he twirled us round. His breath hissed in my ear, urgent and deep. Good God, I've missed your body. Again his hands gripped my hips, gripping tight before sliding up to cup my breasts. You're so beautiful, Shona. I could barely think, barely see. This was perfect, just like before. Almost like nothing had happened. He held me, touched me, spoke to me in just the same way. Part of me wanted to cry with relief. The rest of me crowed with delighted excitement. My fingers snaked back through his hair. I love you, Joshua. I'm sorry I moved too fast before. I didn't realise. I didn't know. Another kiss cut my words down to nothing. Don't worry about that now. Let's just move this conversation to where it belongs. Where's that? His grin, wicked and seductive, melted all semblance of sensible thought. The bedroom, of course. Shona, what are you letting yourself in for? What do you think, guys? Is this as great as she thinks it is, or is there something else going on that she needs to be concerned about? I would love to hear from you. Comments are welcome. Thoughts are welcome. Use the comment window down below or hit me via email info@ravenshadowhawk.co.uk. I'll be thrilled to hear from you and see what you think. What's going on? Let me tell you now. It's all about the week ahead. My week ahead. My week ahead. My week ahead. Let me tell you about my week ahead. Are you ready now to hear about the week ahead? Okay, the week ahead. I really need to knuckle down, don't I? It's time to what's it? Put the pedal to the metal. and other driving metaphors. Fuck it. I need to get some work done, basically. Okay? I feel like I don't have enough of a buffer of breaking news for when things like Hero Fest happen. Okay? I'm catching up to myself pretty quick because apparently it's much easier to read this stuff than it is to write it. So my focus this week is on breaking news. I am going to write I am going to write 5,000 words. That is the goal for this week. I'm not sure how that will spread across chapters because each chapter I read is between 12 and 1,300 words. But 5,000 words is this week's goal. I'm going to do that even if I have to stay up in the middle of the night because I want to get myself more of a buffer. As to everything else, I'm going to put it to the side just for a moment. Although I do have some news, okay? Let me see. As you know, these podcasts are currently only available through YouTube and my website. That is soon about to change. I have finally subscribed to a podcast host and I will be uploading episodes of this, Smut with Brains, and separate episodes of Breaking News to that server so I can actually get it out to you. What that will do is enable me to distribute this podcast and Breaking News to places like Stitcher and Podbean and iTunes, and finally get a few more of you listening in. When that happens, we'll be able to get to the interactive part of this story, because remember, you guys are going to be writing it with me. Yes, I want a buffer, but when I get to the point where we are conversing with each other about what's going to happen to Dear Shona, I'll be writing on spec, okay? I will be reading the episode, putting it out there, and then you guys will be telling me what you want to happen. I will have some sort of feedback form to get that moving, and then I will spend the rest of the week working to that, to those notations, okay? That's how it's going to work. But before I can do that, I need a wider reach, okay? So that is the other thing I might be doing this week. But primary focus, people, primary focus, 5,000 words on breaking news. My promise from me to you, you to me. Well, not you to me, just me to you. Calm down, Raven. Calm down. Yes, folks, it's Q&A time. You ask the questions and I'll give the answers. And I will never, ever lie. Promise. Okay, Q&A. Right, in that case, I think it's time to answer some questions. Okay, I actually only have one question today. I think I've been talking for long enough to make it reasonable to answer just the one question today. And it's actually quite a funny one, considering I spent so much time talking about Iliandra early on. The question is, sorry, I don't know who it's from either. Apologies. The question is, do Iliandra and I argue? Okay. For those of you who are new to the podcast or who don't understand how we work, I will take you through it in brief. Okay. I'm Raven Shadowhawk. My other half is Iliandra Young. We are combined two sides of a single person. Her name is Leah. We don't talk about her often. We often refer to her as DSB, which is the shared brain. Okay? So if you hear me talking about the shared brain, I'm talking about the everyday person who has 2 kids, who has a loving partner, who has to go out and work every now and then and, you know, does washing up and cooking food and buying things in shops. If I'm talking about Iliandra Young, then that is the part of DSB who writes fantasy and horror and comedy and the occasional thriller. Me, myself, Raven Shadowhawk, I work on the romance, the erotica, the smutty, yummy stuff, which is generally just full of sex. 3 people who are actually one person, okay? Which is why this question is funny. Do Iliandra and I argue? Yeah, we do. Oh my god. There was actually a video I had out, we had out a little while ago when we were actually looking into using Patreon, and we took it down because it needed some work. It wasn't as good as we wanted it to be. But the whole video is pretty much myself and Iliandra arguing about who is going to take charge of DSB that day. You know, who is going to be the one to get their work done. Because obviously, if I'm working, Iliandra can't, and vice versa. So, yeah, we do argue a lot. And because currently I'm putting out this regular content, I have this podcast that goes up once a week. I'm also working very, very hard on breaking news in general. Iliandra isn't getting very much work done, and she's quite hacked off about that. And at the moment, there isn't too much to be done about that, except for kind of shoving her way in as often as possible and getting some of her editing done on what she's working on at the moment, which is a novel called Suck This Bitch. So, yeah, in answer to your question, person whose name I don't know, I'm sorry. Yes, we argue, but at the end of the day, we love each other dearly, and the arguments don't last very long. They can't by necessity, because DSB would probably go insane. Legit. Oh dear. Okay, that's that. And that is the end of today's episode. I will be back next week as normal. Remember, in the meantime, if you have any questions that you want to ask me, please feel free to do that. You can hit me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me here on YouTube or anywhere else for that matter. I also have a Tumblr. All you need to do is search for Raven Shadowhawk and bam, there I will be. Also email info@ravenshadowhawk.co.uk. All right? Thank you very much for sticking with me. I will catch you next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Much love to you all. Bye, bye, bye. Mwah, mwah, mwah. This has been an episode of Smut with Brains featuring myself, Raven Shadowhawk. If you'd like to get in contact with me or the shared brain, you can email through info@ravenshadowhawk.co.uk or hit us through Twitter on @IliandraXRaven. For further information and the episode archive, visit www.ravenshadowhawk.co.uk. All episodes to date arranged and edited by Leah Osborne. Opening and closing music sourced from Bensound. Title: Smexxy. Of course. Stings feature further music from Purple Planet, Bensound and freesound.org. Track titles are Funky Element, Sunny and NewsReportMusic.